when you go out on the street, it's me, 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 me. And there's people on the street, people lose their sense of community. And I think here we regain it once again. And it has a ripple effect throughout all our lives, I think, in our jobs, in our families. It makes us happier people, I think. It makes me happier.
You know, you can see the immediate change when they walk into a garden. You know, people get very excited. The way I see it is something very personal. It's a need of people as individuals to be in contact with nature. You know, we live in these boxes. You know, people will think of New York City, of these buildings, high rises, you know, tons of bricks. And we have small apartments. We don't have the backyard. Very few people are lucky enough to have the backyard or to have the house in the country. And this is a great opportunity for us to do a little bit of gardening, to be in contact with nature. You go outside that gate and it's a completely different environment. You know, once you're here and you hear the birds, you see the butterflies, you smell the roses, you see the produce, the eggplants. It's a completely different environment.
In Puerto Rico, it's a little country. I remember I have a little, humilde casa, que you only go into the window and you put your hand and you can have the grapefruit, the guayaba, I don't know how you say again, guayaba in English, but, and in the morning the cucuruco wake you up, and that's beautiful. The mother nature, the pigeon, I love that. La mariposa, the butterflies, and the smell to the flower, the jasmine, the gardenias. So it's beautiful. You open the window and you feel like a paradise. So when we come into New York, this is all paradise. A little garden. This is all paradise for us, the most beautiful thing in the world.
I'm scared on this block. Why? Because like I've been here for 26 years, and seeing that last 2 or 3 years have been the worst out of the 26. It was one night, and I was in the house, and somebody was shooting at somebody else, and a bullet came through my window. A whole lot of stuff been going on, like I said, like a lot of dope dealing. People come from other neighborhoods and trying to start fights and things. That building been burnt down now since the last about 9 years. It makes me feel terrible. Yes, it makes me very angry, because like a lot of times we be out here working, you see people come with wheelbarrows, trucks, and whatever, just dump in there, and it don't make no sense. I'm from North Carolina, and they grow like everything that I grow here. Like I tell them, all I can do everything they can do, but raise me some pigs and chicken. So this way, I can do everything they can do, you know.
My father taught me to garden. What I do with the garden mostly is come and water it and work a lot. And Sometimes he asks me to put up the weed. I put up some weeds. Then I just wait until he tells me to do something else. My name is Shahi, and I grow sunflower seeds, zinnias, tomatoes, and collards, and cotton. That's all I got in the garden. Oh, and marigolds. And lettuce.
These flowers here, these are called cosmos. Can you say that? Cosmos. And everybody works in this garden. I mean, I drag in people walking by, I drag school groups come in, teachers, elderly people, little teeny kids. We have a new daycare center garden in the back where little kids are gonna garden. So all ages, all sizes, colors, religions, you know, it's pretty mixed. The children from working in here, and even from passing by here, from having it here, even if they don't work in it, gives them a sense of identity and I think ownership. They feel they own this garden. This is their garden, and that's the way it should be also. And that in itself gives them a sense of pride, and pride gives one power. So it really does a lot for their souls and their spirits are all living in this garden.
The garden is something to do to keep you out of trouble and out of violence and everything else. So if you ain't had the garden, most of us would be in jail by now.
I realized that my kids couldn't dig, they didn't know what plants were, and my kids are also physically violent. When we were in the garden, they couldn't be violent in the garden because they had to be careful in the garden. If something died in the garden, we had to plant it again, so they started to learn to respect life. Big part of my kids, what they don't have at home and what they don't learn is respect for life. And a part of my job in getting them into the world of work was to teach them to respect life in all different ways. And part of it was the garden and the earth and the environment. So that meant picking up garbage, that meant taking care of the garden, that meant growing things, and that meant replacing things when things were stolen from the garden. So these kids were actually learning respect in the garden. My job in PS4 in the New York City Board of Ed is to get job experiences for my kids who are severely emotionally challenged, so that by the time they reach 11 years old, they would have all different kind of career choices to make instead of going into the world of crime, drugs, where most of our kids end up. It's still growing, huh?
When I see other vacant lots in the neighborhood, my imagination starts working, and I try to make the transformation, seeing flowers and vegetables and people walking around working in the garden. And sometimes it works. Well, in my mind, it works. When I'm in the garden working, I get a chance to see a lot of things going on in the neighborhood that brings me discontent, because I look at the vacant buildings, I see the children following in the footsteps of models that aren't any good for them, and it irks me. It makes me feel very sad. Then I get deeply involved in what I'm doing, you know, and that relieves some of the tension, because the garden must mean a lot to me, because if you can live in a community for as long as I've lived in this one and still have the willpower to continue gardening or working with the children, you must love what you're doing. It must mean something to you. Green Thumb is wonderful because they give you sort of an incentive by allowing you to use these vacant lots as a garden if you want to be creative, you know.